ये अपना संजीवन है।
Hi friends, today we are going to learn a new poem, Aunt Jennifer's Tiger, which is written by Adrian Rich. Aunt Jennifer Tigers is a poem about an oppressed woman who escapes into an alternative world of embroidery and sewing despite a heavy marriage to a terrifying man. It's a formal rhyming poem, an early example of Adrian Rich's work. In three verses, the reader is left in no doubt that Aunt Jennifer has suffered over the years and is looking for a positive way to express her artistic talent before it is too late. The tigers she creates will outlast her and become a symbol of freedom and independence. Poet, teacher, critic, political activist, and women's rights advocate Andrin Reich, who died in 2012, once said, "Poems are like things. In them, you put what you don't know, you know." Could it be that Aunt Jennifer's tigers are likewise dream elements? The role of a woman in society, the language used by men for social and political gain, go hand in hand or past and in reach. The personal becomes the political. This short poem, whilst not overly political, hints at a more radical work to come. Let's know more about the poetess of the poem, Aunt Jennifer Tigers. Andrine Kosil Reach. She born 16 May 1929 and she passed 27th March 2012. She was born in Baltimore, Maryland, USA. She was an American poet, essayist, feminist. She was called one of the most widely read and influential poets of the second half of the 20th century and was credited with the bringing the oppression of women and lesbians to the forefront of the poetic discourse. Her first collection of poetry, A Change of the World, was selected by renowned poet W. H. Auden for the L Series of Younger Poets Award. Rich went to write the introduction to the published volume. She famously declined the National Medal of Arts, protesting the vote by House Speaker Newt Gingrich to end funding for the National Endowment of the Arts. She is widely known for her involvement in contemporary women's movement as a poet and theorist. She has published 19 volumes of poetry, 3 collections of essays and other writings. A strong resistance to racism and militarism echoes through her work. Adrienne Rich is one of the most widely read and influenced poets of the second half of the 20th century. She talks about a woman's experiences in her married life. She has tried to explore the inner feelings of a woman who is living under the dominance of a man. Dear friends, now let's have overview of the poem. Aunt Jennifer Tigers is a poem by Andrew Reich illustrating her feminist concerns. In this male dominant world, a woman of her time was only supposed to be a dutiful homemaker. This poem, through the world of Aunt Jennifer, tells us about her inner desire to free herself from the clutches of abusive marriage and patriarchal society. The, the poem Aunt Jennifer Tigers addresses the constraints of a married life, a woman experiences. This is a political poem that explores the position that women held in Western society. This is a very structured poem. In this poem, each verse contains exactly 4 lines. In this poem, every second line rhymes with the previous line. So these are the some of the specifications and the overview of the poem. Now let's understand the theme of the poem. Aunt Jennifer Tigers sounds like a ball of good times, or at least some big cats themed excitement. In reality, though, it's about a woman whose life has been restricted by patriarchal, male dominated society in which she lives. In Aunt Jennifer Tigers, the limitations that bind Aunt Jennifer in a life don't bind her in art. Aunt Jennifer's needlework allows her to experience a world of a deep green forest and prancing brave tigers. That is incredibly different from the one that is weighed down by the sadness and structures of her marriage and her gender. Art in this poem is a kind of freedom, a freedom accessible to everyone, even the de-empowered. The speaker imagines that the tigers will continue prancing after Aunt Jennifer's death also, and thus Aunt Jennifer will be able to live on through her art. So the art will be the permanent one, and she will continue her life through her art or the her work. The poem comprises total three stanzas. Each stanza comprises four lines. Dear students, now let's turn towards this poem with the first stanza. Let me read the first stanza aloud. Aunt Jennifer's tigers prance across a screen, bright topaz denizens of a world of green. They do not fear the men beneath the tree. They pace in a sleek, chivalric certainty. The poet is describing a lady whom she addresses as a Aunt Jennifer. The lady is referred Aunt Jennifer. She says that Aunt Jennifer is doing embroidery on a piece of a cloth, which could be a tablecloth or a wall hanging. She was busy in embroidery work. She has taken a piece of a cloth, which could be a tablecloth or a wall hanging, and she was doing the work of embroidery. She has designed it with the beautiful tigers which are running fearlessly in the green forest. She was embroidering uh, beautiful tigers which are running fearlessly in the green forest. So the background was green, and yellow tigers were running, and they were in the action of jumping, in the action of running. So her design was of the tigers in the action. She has described their beauty by comparing them with a precious yellow stone known as a topaz. You know very well the color of tigers are green and yellow, and here the color is compared with a precious yellow stone known as a topaz. She says that they appear bright yellow in the green backdrop of the forest. So the backdrop is that's a jungle or a forest, and out of jungle and forest, trees, they are jumping and running fast. They are in action. The color is as good as the precious yellow stone known as a topaz. So they are beautiful, and they are very proud. They are very strong, and they are positive enough with their action. So very nicely she has portrayed, or she has taken the work of embroidery, and she has expressed her inner thoughts, her inner images on a cloth that could be a tablecloth or a wall hanging. She says that they appear bright yellow in a green backdrop of a forest. They are fearless. The tigers which she has embroidered on the cloth, they are fearless. They are not affected by the presence of a man. Uh, the trees are there. Under trees, some men are standing there, but tigers, they are not affected by the presence of men. They are fearless. So they don't have any sign of pressure or a burden. They are fearless. So they are very proud and they are very courageous. They are very strong. Tiger is always the symbol of strongness and proud and always fearless. Okay, animal. Here we can sense the contrast of behavior between the tigers and ant. Though the tigers designed by her are fearless, but she herself is afraid of her husband. So here contrast is there. On one side, the tigers are fearless, and the other side, Aunt Jennifer, she herself is afraid of her husband. So she is under stress, she is under burden, she is nervous. uh, Totally contrast to the tigers she has designed on the cloth, she has embroidered on the cloth. So this is a fine example of contrast. One side fearless tigers are there, and the other side the fearful, the afraid of her husband, Aunt Jennifer. Okay, she is there. Further, the poet says that the tigers are proud and fearless citizens of the forest. So denizens means citizens of a forest. Green, okay, green world is there. Green world, its meaning is that's a jungle or forest. And these animals, the tigers, fearless tigers, are citizens of a forest. They are very shiny and elegant. So her embroidery work is very fine and very neat and very nice. She has designed. They are very shiny and elegant. So she has brought the true nature of tigers through her art, and very nicely she has designed embroidered that they were looking tigers on the cloth. They were looking very shiny and elegant. Now let's understand the summary of the first stanza. The first stanza opens with Aunt Jennifer's visual tapestry of tigers who are fearless of their environment. Bright topaz denizens of the world of a green evoke an image that these regal tigers are unafraid of other beings in the jungle. Bright here signifies their powerful and radiant persons. There is a sense of certainty and confidence in the way these tigers, okay, move, as can be seen in the line they pace with a sleek chivalric certainty. So this stanza shows positivity and the full confidence and the certainty is, okay, seen here through this first stanza. So there's the world of a green, that is a forest or a jungle, and the denizens means a citizen of the jungle or forest, means here the bright and very powerful and strong tigers who are not afraid of the men who were standing under the tree. So the tigers are portrayed here with a positive sense and with strong feelings, with strong, okay, views. They are portrayed here, they are presented here. So the image of a tigers that has come her, okay, mind, her views, what is inside in Aunt Jennifer's mind, so that she has brought out through the work of art, because art is eternal, art is a permanent, and art remains forever. Now let's turn towards second stanza. Let me read it aloud. Aunt Jennifer's fingers are fluttering through her wool, find even the ivory needle hard to pull. The massive weight of Uncle's wedding band sits heavenly upon Aunt Jennifer's hand. Here, poet describes the fear of Aunt Jennifer's towards her husband. She says that while she is doing embroidery, her fingers are quivering, shaking with fear, trembling, okay, with the fear or due to the fear of her husband. Her husband doesn't approve of her hobby of embroidery. Therefore, she trembles while she is embroidering the piece of a cloth. she has become it has become difficult for her to pull her needle up and down. So she was finding difficulty, she was getting problem to pull the needle up and down. Then she describes the wedding ring which she was given by uncle to Aunt Jennifer on their wedding day. She has received the wedding ring as a as a symbol of engagement by her mister. And so she find that's a type of a slavery, that is a sign of slavery. The wedding ring is nothing else but it's a symbol of a slavery to her. She says that it is a kind of a burden for her to wear this ring. So I think this was unsuccessful marriage, and she was not happy with her husband, Mister, and she was a subject of a target, or she was a subject of that's slavery. She was targeted by her Mister, so she was suffering a lot in her married life. She says that it is a kind of a burden for her to wear this ring. She has been tortured by her husband so much that the wedding ring, which could have been a beautiful gift for her, seems like a burden to her. Actually, to just other woman, this wedding ring can be a very good gift, but here for Aunt Jennifer, so it was a type of a burden, because she was suffering and she was tortured by her mister. And that's why her feelings were totally negative, and the relations between them were not so sober and so soft, and so not with any affection or love. So though the relations were totally disturbed, so her inner views and opinions and experience she has brought through these lines. She has been tortured by her husband so much that the wedding ring, which could have been a beautiful gift for her, seems like a burden to her. She has faced so many difficulties in her married life that the little ring is described as a heavy band on her trembling fingers. This means that the ring is associated with some bad experience in the form of a torture she has faced because of her husband's dominating behavior. So it's a very quite clear that her mister was she was following he was following a very dominating behavior, and he was very a part of injustice to her, and she was suffering the injustice from her mister. And he possesses a dominating personality, and there's no any freedom, there's no any independence, there's no any hand of cooperation from her mister's side. So she was tortured, and she was suffering a lot in her married life. She was not happy with her mister in the married life. So ring is associated with some bad experiences in the form of a torture. Dear students, now let's understand the summary of the second stanza. In the second stanza, the reality of Aunt Jennifer is revealed as she is a feeble, weak, enslaved, and very much the opposite of the tigers she was knitting. Her physical and mental trauma is depicted in the line, find even the ivory needle hard to pull. Even it was very hard and difficult for her to pull the ivory needle where she was knitting, she was doing the embroidery work with the cloth. So her physical and mental trauma is depicted in the line. So these words depict that she was feeble and she was very weak, and both the physical and mental condition is revealed through these words. Even though a wedding ring doesn't weigh much, the massive weight of uncle's wedding band sits heavily upon Aunt Jennifer's hand, signifies the amount of dominance her husband exercised over her. This also means that her inner free spirit has been jailed by a patriarchal society. Patriarchal society means a male dominated society. This also means that her inner free spirit has been jailed. So she was feeling very negative. She was unable to express herself. She was unable to have her own freedom, her independence. So her inner free spirit, that was also jailed by the male dominated society, by her dominant mister. So she had a lot of problems, that's a physical as well as a mental, in her married life. So her married life was totally failed and unsuccessful and unhappy relation she was carrying with her mister. So the experiences, the odd experiences, or very unhappy moments in her life, experiences in her life, she has depicted, the poetess has depicted the bad experiences, the patch of her life with her mister, or in her married life. So that is very nicely depicted through these wonderful words, through these wonderful lines. Thank you very much for watching this first part of the poem.